Here is the second attempt at doing the hand sculpture. You can see pulling the hands out of the mold, you get the fingers, and we're going to drop the stone liquid in there, and then I peel it all away. So we'll see how this one turns out. This is a bigger bucket with a deeper well. Well, I'm cutting it away, and see I'm dropping some of these pieces off. And just what I'm doing this time is I'm just shaving it down. Before, I would break chunks off, and I snapped, as you know, a bunch of the fingers. You can hardly see it, but right here, actually one of the fingertips came out. So as I was swiping down, I hit that. So it's really hard to know where they come out. But I'm going to shave it down as much as I can, and then I'll start picking away at it. But it's pretty cool already. Sort of like undecorating a cake, I guess. So the big issue here is not breaking the fingers, and what I realize is I can actually feel that the finger is right underneath that, so I can actually palpate through this stuff. It's kind of spongy right now, so when it's softer in there, I can cut a bigger chunk out, and then once I get closer to the fingers, I can actually just palpate the outline of it, and then I'll be able to pick around it. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I don't snap a digit. No broken fingers like the old one. This one we were able to extend our fingers more, and I did a much better job when I was carving away the mold, so it's straightened out. The only kind of flaw is the tip of Kate's middle finger got a little chopped off, either from the knife when I was taking the mold off, or it just broke off a little bit. So I repaired it as good as I could. But let's see how this looks over here. Okay. Oh yeah. So that's a lot better with all the fingers out. And I'll rearrange that's pretty cool looking. And Kate's fingers kind of flare backwards a little bit, so that will follow the curve of the spine. And that's just, both pinkies are sticking out about the same. Yes, looks good. I probably mentioned that I was going to put some type of spinal cord inside of the Asclepius. And so what I've done is I've gone and just freehanded a single mark all the way up through the middle that wraps around. But I need to carve it, into a cylinder, and this is the size cylinder that the spinal cord is going to be. I was going to wrap the spinal cord in purple veins and red arteries, but that is going to be too difficult. So it's going to be yellow. It'll be the spinal cord, and I think when it gets hit with the black light, it'll make for a nice glow, especially on the backside where you can't see it when it's really dark out. So I'm just going to leave it yellow, and then it won't be as hard to do. But I'm going to carve, and then what I'll do is as I carve the central channel, I'll fit this in each step of the way to make sure that it kind of fits what I'm looking for, so that when I go to lay down the glow-in-the-dark resin, I'll be able to just Gorilla Glue the back of it and just lay it all down. And I'm going to try and do it in all one piece from the very top, where I gotta actually plug it in. See the hole at the top? It's got to start from there. I'm not going to bring it up into the vertebrae. That I tried some variations, and that's not going to happen. So I'm just going to stop the spinal cord at the top, and then just send it all the way down, and we'll see how that goes with a whale tail and a spinal cord. I've got the central canal carved out now in the right width for the spinal cord, and it goes up like that all the way to the top. And at the bottom, when I go below the diaphragm, or the water that's going to go in, I'm leaving this bigger because I have some other plans for that. But to get that line like that in the right shape was a lot of fun. And you can see I have these Dremel heads. So I started with a very fine point to draw a line right down the center. A little bit bigger with this one, then the small round head, medium round head, and finally the big burr. And fortunately, this is exactly the right size, so all I need to do is make one nice pass through the middle of it, and this should fit in there nicely. Now, when I took some tubing and I actually put it down through here and tried to lace it down through, it's actually really hard to get it not to just go straight down and just drop all the way through the middle, because I'm going to have to, glue it up against these curves, and it's going to look so much better with it following the curves than having it just like one straight spine up and down. But that's what we do here at Big Tubs. Okay, it's January and things have moved indoors. Had to take a break from the project for multiple reasons, but I'm happy to be back at it. It's all good. And this is probably going to be the hardest part of the whole project. I made a cutout of the shape I want for the diaphragm. That's going to go through here as the vine or the spine goes down the middle. The whale's head is going to go right in through here, and then it continues down to this lower section here. And that is where the hole is for the screw that's going to screw this into the entire piece. And I didn't have a piece of metal that would fit right, so I'm using a battery. And that, I carved out a hole down there to help stabilize it when I put the whole thing in. You can see I have cutouts for where that diaphragm centerpiece is going to go through. But making the mold for this with the resin, I have been at a loss. So I'm using a bagel holder here, a silicone thing you make bagels in. And this is the shape I want. I'm going to drain in the resin. I'm just going to use clear right now because it's all a run through. And then when it dries, I'll cut out the pattern and see if it fits into the main piece. And then this one here is the tube that I want to use for the diameter of the spinal cord that's going to fit inside all the way up, wrapping around. And I thought I would be able to just clamp the ends and then fill it up, but the clamps don't work, it leaks out. So I'm going to have to bend it while it's drying, and then I'll cut this open and take out the entire round piece before it totally dries. And when I'm ultimately going to be done with it, I'll have to glue it all the way up through the whole thing. But I have to see if it's even going to work at all and if it's the right shape. So I'm going to do clear here, just a little section, clear here, see if this works, and this will be round one on trying to get these things to fit, and then I'll, improve whatever doesn't work. So back at it. This is a very exciting moment. It's about 17 hours later, and you have to make sure the resin is malleable but not too soft so that it keeps its shape. So the tube I just cut along the, you can see here, I opened it right up like that. I just cut with a razor blade right down here, and I just pulled this thing right out, and it's at the perfect amount of plasticity and movability right now. And what I'm really excited about is it fits in perfectly in the groove for the spinal cord. And so this is going to fit really well, and I'll glue along here, and then I'll just be able to glue it right up, and it will actually follow the entire spinal cord canal. And then at the top is the hole, and this thing, the end of this fits right in through that, so I'll be able to snake it through, and then whatever's left at the top I can cut off. So I'll make it yellow, but it's going to work. And the other one actually worked too, pretty well, the diaphragm. So this was the frame. I took that off And this silicone thing is pretty sweet. It just popped right out. So I cut out the shape with the scissors. And this is going to go on right here. And I'm still not 100% sure I'm going to use it, but this also is a little bit bendy right now. You can see. And so I may have to make another one once this hardens. But I think I'll actually be able to slide it on. I'll show you what it looks like when it's on the piece. So this is what I had pictured. And as you can see, it fits pretty snugly around the, the head of the whale coming in through the bottom portion of the piece. And this is what more or less would be the diaphragm. And I think to make it more exciting, I want to have some white paint coming out so it looks like there's splash marks in the water. But I'm going to need to practice that a little bit. So it does change the piece a bit. And I'm going to have to get maybe some opinions from a couple other people on whether to keep that. But it's pretty cool how that worked out. And this should glow in the dark. There's some blue in there. It's not going to be real bright. But it does look good with the whale going. It kind of separates those two. So I may end up keeping that. The resin portion of the project is always the most a little scary because you don't really know how things are going to turn out and you have to picture it. And I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out. I took a piece of silicone tubing. I literally used a razor blade and cut the whole top lid off. So I have half a tube. And what I did is I ended up putting the two. I did this piece. I measured out how long it is all the way around this outline of this vertebrae, which this is the handle in the back that you lift it up, but I wanted to outline it with white resin, and there's so many big cracks I couldn't drain it in. Usually what I do is I just drop it in, and then it, but this is also very curved. So I'm like, all right, let's go over the cracks with a strip, but how am I going to make a strip to do that? So I took this small silicone tubing and then I stretched this out flat and I just filled it in with white resin. And I have that 18-hour mark. That's actually the right time to mold it, where it's not too floppy, but it's not too stiff. And I was able to actually get the entire outline. I started right here and did one entire piece all the way around, just like, I use the super glue that's real precise. I drop it in, and then I'd use my finger and I'd push it down and hold it in the corners really firmly, and it came out really nicely. And I had to cut that piece, so that's the only place where it's not super smooth, but it does fit that groove, and that's going to look really cool, I think, under the black light. I just hope that all the picking up of the handle won't ultimately knock this off and have it come out and get loose. But I put on a lot of super glue, and I think that'll hold, probably for a couple of years at least. So woohoo! Here's the second more, I guess, complicated piece of my resin that I did from last night. And so these cups make an outline here, and then what I did is I laid down the white glow-in-the-dark resin. I used a fork to pull it out to make it look like water splashing out. And they're different. There's 3 of them. I might do layers. And then this was the chunk that I initially cut out of the diaphragm piece. And so I don't know if I'm going to use 1 or 3, and I'm going to try lay it over the top of the diaphragm. So the whale's head goes down this way, and I want there to look like some splash marks, coming off. And when you put on the black light, it'll, it should look white over the blue. But I don't know. This one is totally sketchy. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So I'm really glad that I did 3 different, basically, attempts, and I was kind of hoping this might happen. This was the bigger one, and this is going to be the first layer, and then I'm going to put this on. I'll glue this piece, makes another layer, and then the third piece up here. And what's cool about it is when you hit it with the black light, the part right around his head is kind of a denser light, white, and then it thins out as it comes out where the wave splashes out. So these tips are gonna probably break off a little bit because as they dry they get pretty brittle, but I think it's still gonna look good, and I want to have that splash effect in there. I think it's adds some you know, a little bit of liveliness. I absolutely love it. It needed, you know, some kind of action that's happening and not just this static, you know, the whales going through. It's, I don't know, it just kind of makes it more lively, and it does have these layers which are cool. Let's see what it looks like with the black light. So I just hit that with the black light for a little bit. Yeah, you can see how the part right around the mouth is a little bit brighter, and then it tapers as it splashes out. So I'm gonna go with that. Looks fun, and it brings some life into it. And here we are at the birthing of the spinal cord. I ran out of yellow. I did the whole middle part in yellow, and then I ran out of yellow powder, glow-in-the-dark powder, so I put in some gold on the either end, and I added some glitter, so the tops and the bottoms of the spinal cord might have some gold glitter in there, which I'll figure out a good reason for that. But I'm going to just pull this whole thing out, and then it's going to wrap through here. I'm going to do a bottom section, cut a chunk out so I can drill it in, and then add the top section. So this is a moment I've been waiting for a long time. Ended up pulling the battery out. The better half in my relationship thought it might be a good idea not to have a battery in there that eventually will leak battery acid. And I thought the electricity part was kind of cool, but yes, indeed, had to run to the store to get a dowel rod that fit, which is why I didn't have it in there before, but very smart. So this thing is just going to come out, and you can see it's going to bend really nicely. And I'm just going to peel that thing all the way down, and then I'm just going to wrap it in. I got a whole bunch of super glue. So here it goes. I have the whole thing lying down kind of on its back, and it was quite a journey getting this spinal cord in. Had to, you know, pinch it with my fingers and just sit there and hold it for, you know, a while and try to just get it so it didn't pop back out of the groove. And I had to snake it up, and I had a whole big piece hanging out the tail that I had to cut off at the top. I decided not to do anything tricky wrapping it around. But anyway, you can see it hugs the curve well, which I was hoping. And as we come down and the splash chute, so I went ahead and fastened this entire thing on with a giant bolt right there. And then this piece I'm going to put in between to finish off the spinal cord. And then I'm going to have to try to attach this a little bit better somehow with some sticks. And that I just plugged, it has that little knob on the end. I used glue down there. And this thing is super solid. I mean, this spine is not moving an inch.